Yeah.
You have a great day too.
Okay.
Henry Camden,
Present.
Bill Powell,
Here.
Maddie Coble,
Here.
Judy Rungy,
Yes, here.
Frank Cruz,
He's here.
Styling.
Dave Richard,
I haven't talked to Commissioner Richards, so I do believe he'll be here though.
Scott Boris,
Here.
Leader.
What is that?
Sorry.
That's my.
Oh my
Turn
gosh,
it
that
down,
is so
yeah.
cool.
I'm a car guy, so that's my little car horn in.
That is cool.
We can start with the financials and the staff reports. So as you all can see in the reports, we changed up the financial reporting a little bit. We've been working with our accountants to actually put that information in our accounting system so that we don't have to manually generate the reports. The previous reports you were getting were manually generated. So every month I would have to go in and pull the information and retype. It was just kind of a labor-intensive process, if you call that labor-intensive. But we've gotten it to a point now where the budget's in the system, the reports come out of the system. It's just more accurate. It removes the possibility of a keying error or anything like that. So what you'll notice, though, of course, is the glaring $114,000 net loss. It is in its entirety related to our Section 8 program and the fact that we've been cut back on funds. If you look at the programs individually, the public housing program had a $15,000 net profit for the month and has about a $10,000 net profit for the year. The Section 8 program, on the other hand, has a $44,000 net loss for the month and a $128,000 net loss for the year. That's strictly because we haven't received the funds that we've been expecting. If you look at our revenues, I think there's about a $125,000 shortfall on the HAP funds, which is the money we pay out to our landlord. So the issue there is that, as we spoke about last month, HUD is intentionally short funding housing authorities. We did have a conference call about 2 weeks ago. They confirmed what we talked about last month, that they will be recapturing any funding that is remaining in our reserves for as it relates to our Section 8 program.
Recapturing meaning they're
They're going to ask for a check back.
We need to spend every single penny
Right.
we can spend, not give them a penny back.
And now,
Or maybe one.
as I understand
Just
after
to
the
prove a
conference
point.
call, one of the things that they claim, because the big question is, of course, how are we supposed to operate a Section 8 program without any reserve funding? Their explanation is that the funds will remain property of the housing authority, but will be held by HUD, so we have to go ask them anytime we need our money. So it's kind of that game where, when time comes, we do have to ask for our money. How quickly are they going to be able to get it to us, kind of a situation. So again, the situation, the plan is to we'll probably continue to have losses in our Section 8 program, just because we do want to use as much of the reserves as opposed to give a lot of it back. There will be some that I think is prudent to keep as a reserve, maybe a portion towards a month, 50% of a month's HAP fee, just to cover some of the fluctuations that we have in the program. But the majority of the funds, if this continues to be the direction that HUD wants to take, it's probably in our best interest to continue to use the funds that way, because they're not going to, at the end of the year, they're going to take them whether we use them or not. Some of the other problems too, not really problems, but situations as it relates to revenue. There are some revenue items. If you look, the variances we're missing, it would appear that we're missing some revenue, particularly in our capital fund and our other income items. That's simply a timing issue. This is only the second month of the year. Our U of I grant, for example, which is a large portion of our other income, that money we have to apply for there. We're in the process of getting that money from them. We should probably see it in the next month or two. So that's a chunk of money, probably, I think last year was around $100,000 or more that we haven't seen yet, that we will get in a lump sum. Also, the capital fund is a reimbursement program. So as we start doing things, particularly when we talk about the office or when we start doing some of these upgraded units, that's when the capital money will flow in. Again, that's a reimbursement program. So as we spend the money, we have to put in an application and HUD will fund us for it. So those funds will be coming and we'll get caught up on that. Are there any questions about the financials?
Just, and I don't know if we don't need to cover it now, but I was just going to
all of them are labeled something different now than what they used to be,
Yeah.
like 145.
We
So just
will-
trying to understand what.
We will work on that. See, 33, which is, I think is the third page there, is the Section 8 program. 45 and 46 are your AMP 1 and AMP 2 respectively.
Okay.
44 is our central office. And there's still we're still playing with how it presents. There's a couple things, for example, the training line item shows a very large overage. I think it shows about $35,000 versus what was budgeted. What happened, the accountant misreported some lines. So there's some items in that line that actually belong in our computer equipment line, and others belong in our accounting line. Emphasis provides all three services. Apparently their accountant that was working on it just saw emphasis and thought it was all training as opposed to the other items that they also provide for us.
So I got a point of order, Mr. Chairman. We can't approve these numbers unless he fixes them by Wednesday. Is that accurate? So we can't vote on numbers that aren't inaccurate if the accountant made mistakes on those.
We're not gonna vote on.
Well, I mean, in.
You see what I'm saying?
No, I completely understand. In total, the bottom line figures are correct. The independent categories are a little off, and that's.
Oh,
happened
okay,
before in the
that's
past.
different,
But the
okay.
total
Yeah.
bottom line number is correct. It's
Okay.
just there's some items that belong in another category,
Okay.
internally.
Yeah, that's happened many times.
And you mentioned training,
Mhm.
and as I was looking through this, looked like in, I don't know, 2 or 3 funds, it's training, and it really adds up. That's what you're addressing?
Yeah, I mean, what happened is there are certain items in that group that belong elsewhere.
Okay.
And so once we go in there and have those reallocated, it'll all kind of settle out and make more sense. And this is, I know when we talked last month, I did mention that, we're gonna have a few growing pains as we, kind of go through this process. We hope to have this all cleared up within the next month or so. This is the first time with them doing it right out of the accounting system.
When it says the variance over on the right,
Mhm.
is there a way that it could, like if it's a negative number, it would be like a negative, or, because it's, maybe I'm not looking at it right, but, again, I apologize for being late, so I'm sorry. But when, like a year to date, it says actual 31,000, budgeted 19,000, and then, there's a negative number around the 12,400, because there's a negative difference there.
Mhm.
But then the variance is 65%. So
It should be 65% from the budgeted amounts. Let me take a look here. You're looking at the training line?
no, I'm on tenant services, all funds.
What fund, sir? Which spreadsheet are you looking at?
Okay, so in tenant services, I have it for the month, for example, it's an actual expense of $3,718.07, budgeted of $2,083.33. So we're over budget in that line by $1,600, which is 78% more than the monthly budgeted amount. Does that make sense, or is there another way you think would have it presented better? What may be useful too is at some point in time, if we provide a training on how all this kind of works too, so everybody's on the same page.
Well, yeah, like 0% would be ideal, it would be right on budget.
Well, right, yes.
Okay,
yes.
but if you're, like, the variance doesn't show if you're above, 78% above or 78% below.
I see what you're
See
saying.
what I mean?
Okay.
Okay, so that's the one thing I would, so just looking down this quickly, it'd be nice to be able to see,
Where we're,
oh, it's.
just by looking at the percentages, I understand.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
if it's a program like QuickBooks, it should be doing it automatically.
You know what, and it is a
'Cause
program like QuickBooks, it's basically an accounting software, it's just something I think we need to have them go in and make a change in their software.
I do like the way this is presented.
I think it's easier to read, and I think the letters are bigger.
Hey Keith, instead of just calling it Fund 46, Fund 33, because I'm 50 now, and I'm gonna forget from one month to the other.
We'll get those
Can you
on there.
put Fund 46, comma, and then the
Absolutely.
name? I mean, it just makes it, I was just trying to help you out.
You
But
know what,
I
and
threw myself
and
underneath the bus.
I appreciate it, I really do, because you're right.
Are there any other
See,
questions?
there's the accountant putting in Fund 45, he's gonna remember that forever.
Are there any other questions on the financial? Are there any questions on the list of bills or other financial reports?
I had just a couple on the bills. Let's see, we got a alarm detection. It says for smoke detectors, wiring, I imagine it's hard wiring that you did
Mhm.
for $8,300. How many was that?
What we did, it was in relation to our REAC. We had our REAC inspection, that's part of the report later. HUD came in and did our annual REAC inspection. So we basically went into every single unit to make sure that all of the smoke detectors were in working order, all the wiring was in working order, because that is it's a finding on the REAC report. I'll find out exactly how many we did, but I would imagine, at a Maple Terrace or at a Centennial House, we could have easily done 70, per building.
Oh, okay.
It's just if the batteries are out, or if somebody didn't put it back on properly, or they were changing it, or if it just doesn't work any longer, then, there's a lot of reasons why the smoke detectors don't work. And we have to have those in working order to pass a REAC. So we went in and just through each building, through each unit, tried to update it, but I will find out how many.
Probably makes sense, then they can't steal batteries and stuff.
Yeah, it helps.
I don't remember what the other thing was.
Just let me know if you want to email me, I can.
Okay, that's fine.
If there are no other questions, we will move on to the reports. As of, being that this is June, this is the second month that we now have the strategic plan approved. We started moving forward with our strategic plan implementation. So we've gone and started reaching out to firms to do a logo. We started reaching out to firms to do our vehicles, which are two things that we kind of can get to pretty quickly. We are working on some of the rebranding that we wanted to talk about doing with potentially addressing a new name, some new colors. We're going to be doing some changes to the layouts of our site offices, particularly Maple Terrace, Southwind, Indian Trail. We're going to give them a more professional feel, maybe little chairs, couches, tables, just upgrades that make them look less like, I want to say a public housing office and more like private management offices. We've also started down the road of planning for our new office over in Jericho. We spent a lot of time really working on the configurations. We brought in an architect to kind of tie down, load bearing walls and different things like that to make sure that we are able to fit everything in the way we intended. So we are moving down the road on that as well. The public hearing for the ULI, which we're working on with the city, is scheduled. We're toying between two dates. They're both before the board meeting next month. So that'll allow the board the opportunity to have feedback from the group. We won't have an official report, but we will have access to the draft report, which is basically the official report, just not prettied up. We will have that information available to the board, but you'll all actually be involved in the process as well, as far as having those discussions, being involved in those discussions, and giving feedback. So both of those things, like I said, are before the board meeting, and then at the board meeting, you'll have the opportunity, if you wish, to kind of work on your decisions at that point.
We talk about that, so there's two ranges of dates. Is there gonna be one meeting in each of those ranges, or?
No, those are just the two dates that we haven't figured out exactly which day. Their problem is trying to secure Wabanzi Community College. We're gonna use their, meeting rooms for the event. So they're just trying to figure out, and Rick over at the city has been working on securing a date. Exactly, we need to figure out when they can let us use the rooms.
Okay. Is it gonna be evening or afternoon?
It should be evening, early evening.
Okay.
I want to make sure that people can come. Obviously, if we do it during the day, most people won't be able to attend because of work.
Okay. And then, will you give us the agenda, or are we running it, or is the city running it, or kind of?
We're both, I would say we're both running it. There's a lot of it that we're responsible for, the Housing Authority, and a decent amount that the city's responsible for. The ULI is basically playing kind of mediator, kind of new face to this whole process. They're the go-to for the questioning how the panel, they're gonna handle the panel so that it doesn't look like the Housing Authority or the city is really driving at this. But when it comes down to all the decision-making, all of the process that we come up to, all of the questions that are gonna be asked, Rick and I worked together on forming those and building a list of people who are gonna be invited to the event. So, the ULI will be kind of running it, but we're actually kind of making the decisions about what's going to happen. And I think, I hope I'm right, that that was a direction that we wanted, that we were driving, and we more or less use the ULI to give it a kind of an honest face.
This isn't open to the public, this is just open to people in the community who have vested interest, concern.
There are multiple parts. We're gonna do a joint press release probably in the next week to let the public know. There is a portion of it that is public. It won't be open to the public as far as making comments. The stakeholder list is over 100 people, and it is drawn kind of equally from the Housing Authority's point of view, as well as the task force that the city held, I guess, last year. So that's where the majority of the group is drawn from. We've had some discussions about certain parties not being or being on that list and where people fall. But it's a list of over 100 people from various organizations, leadership roles in the community. Like I said, we won't open it up broadly to the community for comments, simply because both Rick and I felt that it would be a little cumbersome to try and do that, to try and kind of make sense of that much input.
Where in Wabansie at the,
Downtown.
do they have a room big enough to do? I haven't been in the new
Yeah,
building.
they got a
so-
big, they got a
They
big.
have a big room, okay, great.
Well, the whole idea was to get the community input on it.
Right.
So how are we not gonna let the community talk?
That's a good point.
Or is it gonna be two meetings?
I'll tell you what, I'll have to get an answer for you.
I think we should err on the side of, maybe we put a time limit. You can have like a
Yes.
2-minute comment or something like that, so people don't just start going off, but they can.
Yeah, I think,
Submit questions, maybe,
Yeah.
that they
Advance.
can write questions down and then
We'll just draw some.
well, see, and that'd be cumbersome too. What I was thinking is, after this meeting, of course, somehow we have to get it out to the community in general. I mean, I agree, I think that's the only fair thing to do. And how do you go about, really doing that?
The Beacon News isn't gonna do it because most of the people in town don't take it anymore.
Yeah.
Would it be, as we do this joint press release, as the city and housing authority put out this press release and say, we're having this event, would it be then ideal for us as a housing authority, kind of individually, to say, we are also soliciting comments on this process? What do you think? And we put the questions that we're gonna put towards the panel on our website, out to all of our residents, so we can, we'll take a little longer for us to go through them. And, we're assuming, that assumes, every single person we send, we put this available to participate. But for those who do, maybe we provide on our own a means by which they can be a part of this process without, not to discourage the public from coming to the open meeting, but more so to give them another means of being heard. If we put a form on the website that simply, emailed back to us, and then,
Because if realistically, I think if we have a public meeting, it's gonna be the same as, in a sense, as before, because you're always gonna have for and against. And like I think I said once before in one of the meetings, I think the ultimate decision is gonna be with us here in this room, what's gonna turn around and happen. But I still think that we have to have, public's input, or if nothing else,
Yeah.
we have to turn around and listen to the public. Because if we don't, I just think it's being disingenuous.
it is, yeah, come to this meeting, but then you can't say anything.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
Just-
What happens if 2,000 people show up?
Well,
Well, that's
The
what I'm
room
saying,
won't hold
but
that many.
still,
I know,
This
that's-
is something that's gonna affect the city of Aurora for years to come. And, again, I know there's pros and cons of both sides and stuff, but if we don't at least give the time to listen. I found out at least in my career, some people just sometimes do just wanna turn around and vent. If you listen to them, they're happy, to a certain extent, you know what I'm saying? At least you listen, but honestly listen, but if you don't, you're.
I think that's where we started with this forum, was we just wanted to give people a voice to do it, and then, And, you know, and I think having a structure where we take them through some questions or something like that, I think is good, and having all the stakeholders there is good, but I think people, you know, both for and against, you know, redevelopment there want to be heard, and I think that's kind of what we need to.
Yeah, and I think
I
that
agree.
if there's 2,000 people that show up and they each get 2 minutes, then we'll have to sit there till they're done. I mean, that's how I look at it. If we wanna really be open, then let's let them talk.
How many people can fit in that room?
Not 2,000.
Not do that.
No, probably 200.
Let's just say
200.
200 for discussion's sake.
Yeah.
One of the things that you can do and say, there's 100 people invited. First 100 that sign up or whatever, you get an invite to come in, and you contact all the churches in town, you contact all the chambers in town. You say, hey, look, it's on a first come, first served basis, and you announce it that way, and you start doing it now. As opposed, so now 100 people, if they really care about this thing, and they've gotten the word somehow, someplace, you can put it on community television.
Right.
You know, so
That's a
there's a
good
lot of,
resource.
you know, you put it in all your buildings, you talk,
Website.
all the chamber all the chamber businesses. You know, that's a lot of people if you get the announcement out and you say, hey, 100 people, first come, first serve, and you don't, it's just first come, first serve. There's no special treatments.
With,
Go ahead, I'll wait.
I have a meeting scheduled tomorrow morning with Rick and everybody from the ULS, so we'll figure it out tomorrow, and I'll have.
I'm
an
pretty
answer.
sure they're not gonna like that, but.
No,
No,
I'm
they-
not gonna be the favorite person tomorrow, but it happens
Well,
sometimes.
but I think that's important for this board, though,
Yes.
that we
Right.
get the
Yes.
communities, we feel like we're, you know, listening.
Absolutely. So
We can't ramrod anything down anybody's throat. I mean, that's how we got into this thing. Some people feel that's how we got into this thing in the first place, you know what I'm saying? So I think we have to be open and honest, and again, it's gonna be our decision. You know, we have to make that decision, that's what we're here for. But at least we'll have listened to people as we have in the past. We've heard, I mean, I know it's, I feel I know what's gonna, you know, you're gonna have certain people that want, certain people that don't, again, but that's the reason for the company to turn around and they're the professionals, you know what I'm saying? At least they'll be able to turn around and give their viewpoint from a professional standard, and I think that's where we have to.
The other thing you can do is when you're doing this announcement, submit all your questions, okay? And then you deal with the toughest questions at the event. You don't deal with the Mickey Mouse questions.
Right.
You deal with the toughest questions at the event.
Right.
And if you're dealing
I
with
agree.
those, the rest of it is kind
I
of gravy.
agree.
Start using these two words, 100% transparency. That's what we want the community to feel,
Right.
100% transparency in what we're doing.
But I think, I'm sorry.
100% transparency, it's 3 words?
I have to consider the
It's a percentage
population
word.
of
Might be
Aurora.
four, I think that's it.
You have to consider the population of the city. You can't just limit the invitation to the stakeholders.
Right.
You know, a lot of people, I don't know how you can get the word out so that everyone can have the opportunity to respond, whether 2,000 people show up or not. You know, and I think all questions are important, not, you know,
Well, I think you find a lot of questions will be repetitive.
Yeah, they
Maybe-
will.
that's true.
maybe
Same
not.
people, yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think the churches are very important. Do you guys have a list of all the churches in town?
we'll get one.
Yeah, I mean, getting it to the churches and them announcing it is very important.
You gotta hit on what I was gonna say. I don't believe we should limit it to 100 people.
Right.
And if we have to have a follow-up meeting, we'll have it. But I think everyone should be heard.
I agree.
Well,
And I don't know
We
if
have
you
the
know this or not, the
opportunity.
Prisco Center has a stage and it's much bigger than I think a couple hundred people.
Where do you
Am I
guys
right
sit?
on that? Or where?
I think the room
United
will be,
States.
I think the room will be
Paramount.
fine.
Tonight?
I think the room will be fine. If it's standing room only, then that'll be a good thing, you know?
Yeah.
That's true.
It'll be
No,
a
some
shorter
people
meeting
may
too
not
if
even
everyone's
come.
standing.
That's very true.
Right, but if everyone had the opportunity to attend, I think that would be,
absolutely. Well, like I said, we have
Fair.
meeting.
Well, here's another thing you could possibly think about is have this meeting with the stakeholders, and then soon thereafter, have a meeting someplace else that's larger, so that the public can come in and comment. We'll have listened to this one, we'll have listened to the public, then we have to turn around and come back and make our decision. Now, I know that's cumbersome, you know what I'm saying, it's
Maybe that's the way it has to be.
Yeah,
though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in this situation, especially given the comments, I think it's cumbersome's not gonna be, can't be the issue. It has to be about, you know, like I said, what is
Right.
gonna be right for the agency.
Right.
So, no, I mean, if we need to do the work, we'll do the work. That's not the issue. We'll figure it out. Like I said, I have the meeting tomorrow morning. Whatever we need to do, I'll have it for the board by Wednesday.
You meeting with Rick?
Yes.
I'm gonna go with you to beat up on him a little bit?
Absolutely.
I can't.
What, do we know what the questions are gonna be yet, or?
We have started the question, we haven't finalized them just yet. Mostly they circle around, is and what kind of housing is appropriate. B, I think the second question is kind of centered around, what other area amenities are needed in the region. And C, what kind of impact are we talking about as far as, economic, educational, service related. I have the draft questions, I'll send those out to the board.
And there's gonna be a panel talking, or is there just gonna be like a facilitator talking to the group?
The process is kind of a multi-layered process. So there are several stakeholders, obviously more than, let's say there are 120 stakeholders. The idea is to break them into smaller working groups, probably about this size or slightly larger, so that everybody in the room can talk and kind of conversate about the situation at hand. I think the ULI and had basically brought in I think 10 to 15 people of their own to facilitate smaller group discussions on the topic and take notes. And then at the larger panel, which is on the second day, that they would actually have a more open discussion to the full panel of 120 some odd people about what came out of the first day's smaller group discussion. So the idea being to break it down into smaller groups, potentially even look at individual questions depending on the experience of the group, and then bring that back to a full group and then create a set of recommendations for the city and the housing authority.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. We gotta be careful because we don't want to recreate the same. And this sounds a
Right.
lot like the same.
Yes,
Now,
it
but you know
does.
what? But you know what? This is a lot more than that. I think the fact that the sheer number of, you're saying 100,
Between 100 and 120.
125 people, I mean, I think that should give you I would hope, a cross representation of the city, and then you have the follow-up, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's big, I know exactly what you
Mhm.
guys think the same thing, but I think it's the same,
Mhm.
but I think it's a little bit different. Same in a sense, but a little bit different than the situation that we turned around and went through before.
Well,
Scott?
and what is this focused directly on Jericho, or the property on Jericho? So before
It was everything but that.
Yeah.
It seemed.
Exactly.
Right.
And we
But
didn't
yet
have
there was undertone that it
scattered
was
sites,
really not
Right.
that. It
we
was
didn't
really-
have
Yeah.
new designs, we didn't have any of those options, at least from what I know, going into this that we didn't have before. Is that accurate, guys?
Which designs?
Well, the ones that, they showed us.
We didn't even talk about Jericho going into the previous one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
So
was,
that
there
one
was
is-
no other options, it was just build it or not build it there. Am I accurate on that?
No, we didn't
Jimmy?
talk
No,
about
we didn't
that.
discuss it,
Didn't talk
period.
about it.
Yeah. So I think it is a little different going into it. Because again, all of that was gonna be all low-income housing, and what was proposed is just part of it, not all of it. So it's a little bit different going into it.
And I disagree with what you said. All of that wasn't gonna be public
No,
housing.
it wasn't.
No, my understanding. Anyway,
We good?
Good.
Okay. Something I guess a little bit positive, we've had our kind of lately, I guess over the last 6 weeks or so, we've had a pretty good run of good news in the paper, including a front page story about a young lady moving into our scatter site house. So to kind of top that off, we were captured by NARO, which is an industry association. It's a national association for housing authorities. Pretty much every agency is involved. And the article and the news story was picked up by NARO, and they have, at the time that I saw, they posted on their Twitter page, which is 600 some odd followers got to see the story and read the story. So hopefully that creates even more interest and positive kind of reputation on housing authority. So it's good to see that we've done something positive that's being picked up and being shared throughout the country, not just regionally or locally, as far as what we're trying to do here. And that's the last thing, and you'll notice if you go on the YouTube page, we have been working with, rolled out a lot of new technology at once. Our YouTube page is having some technical difficulties. The April meeting didn't have audio, so it's not posted. The minutes are posted, so we're still compliant, but I imagine there are some people who aren't happy because there's no video of the April meeting. It's not that we're trying to hide anything, we just literally didn't have any sound. We believe, I think Alex and I toyed with it today for about an hour and a half, so hopefully we've got it figured out and mastered. If not, we'll continue to kind of work until we get it right. But just so you know, as those questions come up, it wasn't that we're hiding anything, it's just that we had some technical difficulties. Anybody wants to see the video with no sound, we'll gladly show it to you. Are there any other questions from me?
No, I was just gonna congratulate you and your team on all the
Great
PR.
job.
That's
Thank you.
that's
Thank you.
Fantastic.
small
Yeah.
wins build on each other. So yeah.
One step at a time, I suppose. I have one thing before I'll allow Maureen. Everybody, I think here pretty much knows Maureen Godinez, but as you know, we were looking for a public housing program manager, somebody to oversee our public housing program. And after a very thorough search, in which we actually brought in some candidates from out of state, some from very large housing authorities, including the Housing Authority of the City of Pittsburgh, where, I mean, they have 4,000 or 5,000 units. What we really came down to was that the best person was already here. So we're very
Good.
happy
Right.
to say.
Should we be worried about it? No.
So I will now turn it over to her for her report.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you. Well, with the public housing program, we've got a few things going on. First of all is our waiting list information. Probably one of the more urgent things we need to get done is do a purge. You can take a look at the numbers, how many, especially with the one bedrooms, as many people as we're bringing in, and more than half are being denied either because of no-show or they just don't qualify, either because of criminal record or whatnot. So in order to try and rebuild and try and make sure that we're getting people in as soon as possible, we're gonna purge the waiting list and hopefully in September reopen the one bedrooms and the larger bedroom sizes, the 5. We're gonna take a look at the 3. Still not sure if that's gonna happen just because 3 is one of the most popular sizes. And right now, the few people that we are pulling, they've been on the waiting list for years. So that's going on. With the Rush program, Kim has been, she had her fair. That went pretty well. She had great feedback. We're gonna be looking at doing some more in the future. She's been working with Louis over in our maintenance or warehouse area. She's got the internship program going with a few tenants involved in that. A couple of graduates or, people who have tenants who have finished the program through her. Maple Terrace, we still have a few fire victims still out there in the motel. And as vacancies are coming up, we're shipping them on over, sending them over to whatever unit, if that means sending them here to this site or at Maple Terrace.
Are we still paying for their meals?
We're going to send a notice at the end of this month that we won't be able to do it any longer. Initially, I thought it was the right thing to do because, of course, it was a sudden thing. It's going on for 30 days now. I think that's, at this point, I think the family should have had enough time to get comfortable in that situation and can begin to pay for their own meals. But we won't, it won't be abrupt. We are going to send out a notice on July 1st. It gives them about another week or two. I haven't figured out exactly how long. Kind of depends on when the billing cycle, just try and keep it clean on the billing cycles. But we will send out a notification. There are only about 8 families left. So we're not talking about 30 or 40 people at this point, it's just 8 families.
How many people is it?
Well, if we go on average, it's about 24. The average family is 3 people. And we're talking about Maple Terrace families, which are 1-bedroom units, so it's at most 2 people, so 16 people total.
Is it too much of a burden for the agency to continue to do that until they can get back in?
Well,
It's $3,000 a month is
yeah,
what it comes down
well,
to. So.
what I'll say is that, financially, we could probably absorb it. I just think, we set an expectation if we continue to do it, that we'll always do that. And we don't know, the other problem is we don't know how long it'll be. So it might be 1 more month. We still have to get the city to come in and even begin to allow us to do some of the repairs that we need to as far as those units that are out. If the board wishes, we certainly can continue. I mean, I think financially, we can stomach it for probably another month or 2 before it really starts to become an issue. But, it's really operationally, I just felt that we'd done it for 30 days, that it'd probably been enough. I mean, we don't pay for their food generally. I mean, people would have bought groceries for themselves.
Right.
So,
Yeah, but in the hotel, they don't have
They can't prepare
the
it.
ability to cook it and prepare it.
True. So I mean, if we, you know, and it's something we can certainly look at and have, you know, have a discussion about. If the board wishes to continue that, we can, absolutely.
Here's the way I look at it. I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, the people that are not in their places aren't the ones that created the fire?
No.
So somebody else screwed up. They're kind of, you know, paying the price for that. They don't have a place to prepare it. If we can financially do it, might make sense, but I'm just kind of throwing it out there. You know, we want to teach the people to fish, okay? So they can fish on their own some days. This wasn't of their making, you know what I mean? So if the funds are available, I think this is a good use of those funds. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way.
Do you get a certain amount?
It's
per day?
$30.
$30 a day?
Well, per meal per day, but
That's not a lot of money.
$30 per meal?
Per meal?
That's not right.
Yeah,
No,
$30
No, it can't be
I'm sorry.
$30
Yeah,
per
$30 per day, I
day.
apologize.
$30 per
A
day.
day.
I apologize.
That's
Eric, I'm
living
sorry.
good.
Yeah, no, it's not $30. I don't get $30 per meal per day. No, I'm sorry. If the board doesn't object, or if the board has further comment, we can. Like I said, I mean, it's at $3,000 a month. It's probably less than that now. Financially, we spend $3,000 on less important things. I can afford to not buy computers or something like that. So the sacrifice isn't substantial by any means. I mean, the public housing program has profits to use. Really, at this point, if the board wishes, we can continue.
Or, I mean, we're not gonna make any motions on it today.
No.
All the board members just kind of think about it, and then Wednesday, if,
Maybe tapering it off.
Well, it's not a, I don't, and I could be wrong, our attorney, but it's not, I don't think it's a vote kind of issue. I think since it's operational, it's just a matter of, you know, if, you know, we can continue or we can, it's not, we were already spending the money. So if we want to continue, that's not an issue.
I was under the impression that funds from HUD were not to be used for like what we're using them for.
Well, I guess that's the upside of having a former director of finance as your ED. There's a way to account for it that's fine. You know, we have the Ross program, so basically when we're doing the accounting for it, we're accounting for it there, where it's a tenant services activity.
Oh.
So we can cover it, and HUD understands, so they know we have the fire, and our tenant service program technically is covering the meals for the families. We can discuss, I mean, it's not something we have to decide on right now, we can discuss it further, and I'll definitely look into kind of a cost analysis on what we're looking at going forward too.
Yeah, 'cause I think what we need to figure out is how long are they gonna be out? I mean, I think that's the key.
Yeah.
If you can gauge how long they're gonna be out, then we can gauge, I mean, if they're gonna be out another 6 months, then, you know.
Yeah, but still, you know, they don't have the means to prepare their own
No,
meals.
and very valid, yeah, that's very valid.
It's something, yeah, I think it's certainly something we'll look at, and I'll have more information by Wednesday on, you know, where we are with that as well.
So we get those situations worked out with the lady who has trouble getting up the stairs. and all
Yeah,
that.
she, although still sort of unhappy, we moved her to a unit on the first floor. So, you know, the initial concern was that she couldn't get to the elevator and get up and down, so we did offer her a unit on the first floor. It was very challenging to get her to move to the first floor.
she wanted her spot.
Yeah, she basically wanted the guarantee that she could go back to the unit she had originally, which was not something we'd be able to do, especially right now. So basically what we told her, you know, we have a unit on the first floor, it meets all of your needs. Either you take the one that meets your needs, or you have to stay where you are, where your needs aren't being met. She eventually, you know, decided to go. She's not happy about it, but she did go to the unit on the first floor, which is better, in my opinion, for us and her, because it makes it easy for her to get in and out if she needs to, and it lowers our risk of having anything happen to her,
Yeah.
and it be our fault.
Yeah, that's
Alright,
true.
good deal.
Change is difficult for everybody, no matter how good it is for you.
This is true, this is true.
Maria, you said that there was good response on the fair.
Yes.
What was good? Good response tells me nothing. Can you be a little bit more specific on how many people showed up? Any of that information, and you don't have to do it today if you don't have it.
I don't have an accurate list today of how many people showed up. As far as even the vendors were making comments to Kim, as far as just being able to come together and learn about other services being provided to tenants. For the tenants themselves, they were happy to see that they were able to either get more information, sometimes to places they can't always get to themselves. So everything was centralized, so they really liked that a lot.
I think one of the things that I noticed immediately following the fair, I was receiving invitations to different organizations' events almost instantly. So now, every week, we're being invited to this place, to the point where Kim and I are trying to figure out how we can get to all these places.
Mhm.
So that's something I think positive really that came out of this, is that the other service organizations in the city are aware that we're here to help, we want their help, and we want to work with them. So they're inviting us out to their events, to be involved, to have a seat at the table. And I think that's the first start as we talk about, improving our brand, to being able to have other organizations that say good things and positive things about the agency. So, again, I don't know if that answers your question, but it does kind of, to me, show that there is, room and there is a place for us to be involved in those kinds of things.
I know Kim did have a chance to go out this week to a couple of the agencies that were here for the fair, and a lot of their agents or, staff members didn't know about the program or even the Ross program, so they invited her out and she had a chance to educate them on what the program was, therefore opening more doors, educating them, so they can then turn around and educate a lot of the same clients that we're dealing with.
When I got here that morning about 11 o'clock, I think, I don't know what time. There wasn't a parking place out there. I said, now where am I gonna park? But luckily I found one. But it was well attended, very well attended. I'm still waiting for my picture from the congressman.
I have the one with me, and I can get it. It was with me.
I got the one with mine.
Yeah, it's the one that we had.
Yeah.
Are there,
You got his number?
Well, I emailed his schedule. That's what he told me to do, and I described the shirt I had on. I haven't got anything. Maybe that's a good one.
Get Keith to do it. He don't get
We
somebody
can
else.
Photoshop you in there.
Are there any other questions on the staff reports? Jim is out today. He will be here for the board meeting on Wednesday. I'll have him give his report at the board meeting on Wednesday. If there are no other questions, we do have one resolution that will come before the board on Wednesday. It is we have to annually we report to HUD on the program activities of our Section 8 program. It's called a CMAP report. Don't ask, because I don't remember exactly what CMAP stands for. It's one of those long kind of things, but it requires, in order for us to have a full and complete submission, that we also have the board sign off on a resolution that they are acknowledging that we did bring it before the board. If anybody wants to go through it, it is right here. It is all of about 400 pages.
Are you
so-
kidding me?
Well, I think we'd each like our own copy.
Yeah.
And we will gladly make them.
I want the executive summary by Wednesday. One page double space.
Double spaced, all right. But essentially, it is just a report summarizing the activities of our Section 8 program, which basically we are fully leased, as our funding allow. We are not adding new vouchers. Our fair market rents have been lowered. We did that back at the beginning of my tenure here, back in October, I think we did that. Essentially, those are the kind of the primary functions. There's a lot of demographic information, those kinds of things. The report itself has already been submitted to HUD. We had to do that by May 31st. So we're just making sure that we have everything for the binder. That gets audited, and then it requires that we have brought it to the board. So are there any questions?
Who audits it?
Our internal, our office.
Oh, okay.
And HUD can, if they find irregularities or if they have questions, HUD can certainly come in and will at times ask questions about it as well.
Okay.
If there are no other questions, we do have some news on the redevelopment front for the first time in a while now. We were approved to submit a full application. If you remember back in March, we submitted an application for 40 scattered site units. That application has been approved for well, not fully approved, we're not there yet. It's been approved for a full application, which is due in July. So we've been working with the developers to do that. We do feel very strongly that this application will be approved in the December funding round. So we're moving forward with the application now, we're getting all the paperwork together, and we will be, moving forward with that as planned. So that is also.
And that's 40 of them?
Yes, 40 scattered sites. They will actually be all supportive housing. It's the only way we can do 40, finance to 40 units.
What's that mean?
Supportive housing basically means they're intended for elderly
Yeah.
or veterans. The idea being that the housing is a little more stable for those families, but it'll be primarily for, well, not primarily, entirely
Disabled?
for.
Disabled?
Yes, disabled elderly, yes, disabled elderly or veterans housing.
Good.
I'm sure we have a lot of need for that.
Yes.
There's no shortage on that front there at all, I don't think.
Good.
Are there any other questions?
So do I need to go with you to that meeting tomorrow morning to beat up on Rick a little bit?
I think so. Rick, you know, sometimes
I'm
he
available.
deserves it. I don't know.
I'm available. You missed that earlier. The money that HUD wants to take back,
Mhm.
when are they looking to take that back by?
Their fiscal year for Section 8, which is kind of, they have different fiscal years within their programs inside of HUD. They typically would do that in about September, October. The HUD fiscal year ends in December, so it would at least be by then. Now, they may make some exceptions because our fiscal year actually ends 3 months later than that. But knowing HUD, they probably won't. It'll be a December recapture. Sort of how, if you recall, we had the issue with the recapture before for the operating fund, which they did, I think, last year, where we had to spend the money on a demolition or else face losing it. That was a December 31 deadline.
So you guys are gonna come up with a strategic plan to make sure that we keep those funds.
Spending money is not hard to do around
Yep.
here.
Okay. Awesome.
We just can't give it all back to them.
Yeah. If there are no other questions, am I allowed to call any, or ask for an executive session at this meeting?
I think so.
Yeah.
I would like to request an executive session to discuss 2 items. One, like I said, a strategic and political nature, and the other, impending litigation.
Oh, okay.
I make a motion, we go into executive session.
Second.
All right, yes.
You showed up.
How are you guys? Well, we should have had this meeting on Friday, but there'll be more to report at the full board meeting Wednesday. So it was scheduled for Friday, and then they had
Oh, yeah,
ULI folks rescheduled on us.
Okay.
I was already halfway to Downers Grove.
We're not ready.
How you doing?
Good.
Good to see you.